In this video, I'm going to be working with two different files. The first file is called the activity main.xml or activity underscore main.xml. And this is the default layout that we've been working with so far in previous video lessons. The second file that I want to work with in this video is the strings.xml file. Now this strings.xml file will hold all of the strings and their values that I can use and work with on a layout. So to begin with, we're going to go ahead and modify the activity main.xml file. So I'll double click that, and I'm going to go ahead and maximize that. Now when we first created an application, we have a default text view that appears on our layout. It's called Hello World, at least the text says Hello World, and it has no ID assigned to it at the moment. If I switch over to the activity main XML tab, I can see that I have three attributes for this text view. I have the layout width, the layout height, and then a text attribute. Now this text attribute is actually referencing a string from that strings.xml file. The string is going to be called Hello World. It does not have an ID assigned to it yet, and we're going to go ahead and assign that ID. And I can do that one of two ways. I can either write that in the code here by giving it an attribute of Android:ID and then giving it a name, or by switching over to the graphical layout and then right-clicking on it and choosing Assign ID. And that is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to go ahead and give an ID of TextView, and then I'm going to use a descriptive word to help identify this later on in code as the word hello. And all of my objects are going to follow the same naming convention where I have a lowercase letter to begin with, and then every other word will be a capital letter. I'll go ahead and hit OK. And let's switch over to the XML. And you'll see that I now have the Android ID attribute, and it's going to use or create a new ID, and the ID is going to be called TextView Hello. Let's go ahead and switch back over, and let's see what happens when we drag over another text view from the palette. Go ahead and drop that below this and switch over to the code, and you'll see that I have four different attributes. I have the ID attribute already assigned. It's going to be called TextView1. I have the width, the height, and then I'm given a caution for this text attribute. And the reason for that, if I hover over here, is that it's hard-coded text rather than a string. And what that means is whatever you type in between the opening and closing parenthesis is what will be displayed. Now in the Android system, that's discouraged. And the reason for that is because it's better to use a string object to use on our layout, because once I have that string object, if I decided to do something like convert this application to another spoken language, then I don't have to actually find all of the hard-coded text. I could just modify all of the strings, and then the application could be in a completely new spoken language. We're going to go ahead and make the modifications to this text view over in the graphical layout. So if I right-click on this text view and choose to edit the ID, I can go ahead and give it any name that I would like. So currently it says TextView1. I'm going to go ahead and call it TextView Name. And I'll go ahead and hit OK. And that will update throughout the entire application for us with a new name change, which makes it really nice and convenient for us to change names of objects in our layout. I also want to change the text that you see displayed here. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on this and choose Edit Text. Now I can go ahead and hard code in a new value here, or I can create a new string. I'm going to choose to create a new string. Let's go ahead and give this string a file name. I'm going to call this one enter_name. And then the string value that I want is what it will be displayed on our layout itself. So for this one I will say enter your name, and I'll put a colon at the end of that, and I'll go ahead and hit OK. Now you'll see that I have four different strings to choose from. This is the newly created one called enter_name. I'll go ahead and hit OK, and the value that you'll see here has been changed for the text view. Now let's go ahead and take a quick look at examining the strings.xml file. I'm going to restore that back down, and I'll find the strings.xml file. In this file I'll see all four of these string values that are created for our application, the enter_name being the newest one. If I click on that, I can go ahead and see that the name of the string is enter_name, and the value that gets displayed is enter your name : and I can make modifications here. I can add additional strings here too in the strings.xml file. I'm going to go ahead and close that now and return back to the activity main.xml, and I'll go ahead and maximize that. I also want to modify the gravity of my text views. And I'm going to do that with the first text view, the Hello World text view. And so if I go ahead and switch back over to the XML code, I can go ahead and add a new attribute to it. So I'm going to go ahead and click here at the end of our attributes, and I'll go ahead and hit enter. Make sure that you have the closing tag still after the cursor. Let's go ahead and add a new attribute. Android, colon, and I'm going to do gravity. So I'll go ahead and choose the layout gravity. And then for this one, I want to go ahead and say center. And if I hit the control spacebar, I can see all of my options. And I want to center this one horizontally. Alright, I'll switch back over to my graphical mode, and I'll see that the Hello World has now been centered horizontally. If I click on the enter name, I want to make a modification here with the actual size of the text. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the XML, and I'll go ahead and enter this in the code. So I'll add this attribute to the second text view, and I want to give it a text view size of 25 scalable pixels. So I'm going to type in Android, colon, and I'll look for text size, and then type in there 25 SP. And if I switch back over to the graphical layout, you'll see that the size of Enter Your Name has changed in comparison to the Hello World. Okay, now let's go ahead and save our work. I'm going to go ahead and press Control S on my keyboard to save the file, and you'll notice the asterisk that was up here indicating that I had unsaved changes is now gone, and we've made our modifications to our text views.